The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star.
Well, happy Victory Monday, Cowboys Nation. Welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're coming live to you from the beautiful Star in Frisco in the SWBC podcast studio. I'm Jess Navarez, joined alongside two incredible ladies that you see every Monday. Of course, Christy Scales and Aisha Morrison over here. Ladies, we had some breaking news right before the podcast started, a little less than an hour ago. Come to light, the Dallas Cowboys officially signed wide receiver T.Y. Hilton, and there's a lot to talk about. Mike McCarthy spoke about it in his press conference, but just right off the bat, how are y'all feeling about this signing? Keep in mind, he's a 10-year veteran, 4-time Pro Bowler. He's had 5 1,000-yard seasons, one of which was 1,148 yards in 2016, the most in the NFL when he was playing for the Colts. Mike McCarthy said he's a great addition, someone who's in shape and has been working out all year. He was cleared medically and got through a workout with flying colors. Timing was right, and it was a unique addition for the Cowboys, given the timing of being in the fourth quarter of the season and the thick of December football. Ladies, how are we feeling about this signing? Aisha?
I'm going to let
Floor is
Christy.
yours.
Okay.
Christy, Aisha, anybody?
Yeah, great addition, and not a lot of risk, but possibly high reward. Obviously hasn't played this season. There have been some injury concerns. I'll go more into that in just a little bit, but what's the difference in signing him and Odell Beckham Jr.? Money, probably one, length of contract, but the main thing was T.Y. Hilton was willing and able to work out. Okay, so right obviously much farther along. It's not coming off an ACL injury. He's coming off a neck issue, disc. He has not played this season, but he was one of the top free agents at any position, at least in terms of name recognition and past accomplishments. So I don't see any downside to it. I only see it as a positive.
Yeah, I mean, you also get like we talk about, you get a veteran guy into this young room, and hopefully he has some mentorship there and whatever. But as far as him being an addition, we know what he's capable of. He's dealt with all the injuries and stuff, but hopefully the rest has helped him and he can come in and contribute late. Yeah.
Yeah, and Christy, I'm so glad you brought up the working out portion of things, because that's not something we saw when Odell was in the building. He didn't partake in a workout. And so the fact that T.Y. came in, participated in a workout, to which Mike McCarthy said he passed with flying colors, was very interesting and intriguing. Something else intriguing is you said you knew why he goes by T.Y.
Oh.
And you wanted my live reaction for this. Now I'm really curious to why that is.
His real name is Eugene. Okay, so how do you get T.Y. out of Eugene?
2 + 2 is
4. his father's name is Tyrone, which of course starts with T.Y. So he said that since he was real little, everyone just called him T.Y. off of his father's name. But no offense to anyone named Eugene, but maybe he likes that better than Eugene. But that's the reason why. But here's the thing: he was one of the top wide receivers in the AFC for several years,
Absolutely.
and that run of 4 Pro Bowls, that was consecutive. That's 2014 through 2017. But what happened was, going into last season, all 10 seasons that he's had in the NFL have been with the Colts. He was originally a third-round pick of the Colts back in 2012. But here's the thing: he had a neck issue last year, and it was in the off season, but he was coming back from a preseason game on the team charter, and he lost feeling on one side of his body. And so there was a disc in the neck that was blocking some nerves, and so he had surgery before the season. He ended up missing the first 5 games of the 2021 season. When he came back, he missed some more games due to some different injuries. One was a concussion and one was a quad strain. He missed 1 game following each of those injuries. But the year before, he had a groin injury. The year before that, he had a quad strain and torn calf, different injuries throughout the season. As well as a groin. So quad, calf, and groin. He hit the trifecta in 2019. In 2018, thigh and hamstring injuries. So his previous injuries were all lower body, but the most recent one was neck, and so that's obviously great concern. So even though he was able to play some last year, he just obviously wasn't at full speed and missed the first 5 games of the season.
And I think something, too, that when we were talking about Odell, when that whole conversation was first brought up, was the medical staff within this organization, within the Dallas Cowboys, that really help to nurse these players back to full health from injuries that you don't think are fixable. I mean, Damone Clark, Jalen Smith, those are 2 names we throw around all of the time. So again, it makes this Cowboys team very appealing for somebody like T.Y., who has this kind of injury history, who could come into a medical staff that is very well-renowned, well-trusted, and well-respected within that community.
Yeah.
So intriguing for him, intriguing for the Dallas Cowboys, especially considering he can be an additive quickly. And I think that was exactly why this happened so quickly within hours of us first hearing reports. I know Jane tweeted something out and then the signing happened. So very interesting there. But Aisha.
Yeah, Christy, you made a good point about his run when he was with the Colts and just how dominant he was at some points. Like, he was the guy when he was there. He
Absolutely.
was
Absolutely.
the guy
He was
when
the
he
go-to
there.
guy for Luck, Andrew Luck, and
that was a dope. They were actually looked at to be one of the best tandems at that point in time. So, another appealing things is that I'm sure he understands a lot of the injuries he's had and the stuff he's gone through and coming here. Their lack of not just lesser responsibility, being able to be a contributor and not just be like the main focus of an offense may be something also that is appealing for a guy that is, older into his career and trying to find somewhere to settle.
Yeah, and I think the Dallas Cowboys have been a good landing spot for people like that. You maybe not the same comparables, but even look at James Washington and when he came on, and it's so funny to look back at the headlines from when James Washington was first signed, because no one thought that the Cowboys wide receiver core would be performing like they are at this point. But just wanted to break that news to you all, break it down a little bit more in detail.
And just wanted to add that one thing when you talk about him meeting with the medical staff here with the Cowboys, just want to point out that one of the things that Coach McCarthy said in his press conference just under an hour ago is that T.Y. Hilton passed the physical and the workout with flying colors.
Yep.
And then the other thing is that right now, as we speak, as we're doing this podcast, T.Y. Hilton is in a meeting with the wide receivers coach, Robert Prince. So no time to waste.
Moving quickly.
And hopefully, now, obviously, the team has the day off tomorrow. I'm sure that he'll be in trying to play catch up, but his first time on the field with everyone will be on Wednesday.
Dope.
Definitely good to keep an eye on. And so something else to keep an eye on, too, is to see how they integrate him and how quickly they feel comfortable doing that. If it's going to be another ramp-up situation like we've seen with previous players throughout the season, or if it's just going to be full swing, let's see what you got. Going to be interesting. Very interesting as we continue on our week. Speaking of interesting, y'all, what a Sunday afternoon for all of us. Oh, man. The Dallas Cowboys beating the Houston Texans 27-23. Definitely was not my score prediction. I don't know about y'all, but I was hoping for a 50 burger. Didn't get that, and Twitter let me know it very quickly.
Lovie Smith showed us.
Lovie Smith showed us 100%. He said, hey, uncommon opponent? Who's that?
Hey.
It was definitely a game plenty to break down. And so really when we talked about this game, Aisha, you and I had talked about this was a game for the Houston Texans, a team that had nothing to lose and everything to gain. The Cowboys, on the other hand, well, what did they have to lose? Health. And they definitely have a laundry list of injuries to come out of this one. So, Christy, I want to get more injury updates and what you know. We have a lot of players to go through. We heard more updates from Mike McCarthy in his press conference as well. But starting with, I think, the one that's a little bit concerning going forward, considering, the chain of events at what we saw in the O-line. But Terrence Steele, we did hear from Mike McCarthy, and Mike McCarthy in his press conference said that he is a rock of a man who's just been so consistent. It is a loss for them. And he's a true pro pro beyond his years. And so this is a huge loss for the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. Christy, can you go into a little bit more detail about Terrence Steele, that injury he's dealing with, and what this could mean going forward?
Well, he got rolled up on the back of his left leg when he was blocking. It happened at the 49-second mark of the first half, or of the second quarter. So Josh Ball had to come in and played most of the second half, and Jason Peters, the veteran, stepped in, who had been working exclusively on the left side at either left tackle or left guard, and played right tackle for the first time since, 2006?
2005, I believe?
Yeah, something, in, 16, 17 years,
Since
something like that.
2005.
Since 2005. So kudos
That's a
to
long
him to
time.
come in and not just take a series, but a 2-minute drill.
Yeah.
But, what happened was let's see, it was Tyler Smith who was engaged with the defender and blocked him, and when that defender fell away, fell into the back of Terrence's leg. But it is a huge blow. We've talked about Terrence before. I've talked about just last week we were talking about some of the off-field stuff that he's been doing and what a great guy he is and how respected he is amongst coaches and teammates, even though he's very quiet and doesn't get a lot of attention from Cowboys fans and media. So this is a big blow. But I tell you that the left side of the Cowboys bench, between that and the tunnel, when a player gets injured, if they come to the Cowboys bench and go to the right side of the bench into the blue medical tent, that's where most things happen, right? Someone gets hurt, they come off, and the medical staff checks them out in the blue tent. If they come off the field and don't go to the medical tent, but they make that beeline straight up to the tunnel on the left side of the Cowboys sideline and go up to the x-ray room or towards the locker room, that's bad news. And we had 5 guys make that trek yesterday.
Yep.
And my thing for the Dallas Morning News on Sports Day, I said it was busier than a runway at the fashion show. I mean, guys were just back and forth, back and forth. So the first of even before Terrence Steele was Jonathan Hankins, the defensive tackle. So he suffered a pec injury. He went out with a shoulder. We thought it was a shoulder strain or sprain, but with the pectoral. So he could miss some time. The good news is that when Trayvon Diggs went off with the left thumb injury, he returned. I think he only missed 6 plays on defense. And then Jake Ferguson left just before halftime. He was very unsteady, needed some help walking down the sideline and up the tunnel. So they were obviously checking him for a concussion. But it's a bad day when you have a pregame injury and a postgame injury.
Yep.
So Jaron Kearse, the Cowboys starting safety, it was 40 minutes before kickoff, and just a thing where he catches the pass, braces so that teammate Deron Bland can practice wrapping up, happened right in front of the Cowboys bench, and he just landed awkwardly on his left knee, crumpled to the ground, needed to be helped to the locker room. Luckily, he came back out about 30 minutes before kickoff and did some light conditioning behind the end zone and was able to play the game. In fact, took 95% of the snaps, so kudos to J-Ron working through that. And then Dorrance Armstrong on that very last play of the game, the Hail Mary that Israel Mukuamu intercepted in the end zone, he tweaked an ankle, so we'll wait for an update, get a little more on Dorrance Armstrong. Hopefully he'll be able to practice by the end of the week. Coach McCarthy said earlier this afternoon that he thinks DA may be ready to go for Jacksonville.
Thank you, Christy. All good stuff as far as information. Definitely hate to see any kind of injuries to any of these guys at any point, not just for the Dallas Cowboys, but around the league as well. Aisha, when talking about these players, that laundry list, and you and I talked about this specifically last week, and I wish we weren't right about it, but which one really is the most significant loss to you if you're talking about these players that can't play maybe immediately or for the longer term? Which one do you think has the most significant impact and why?
So I think, in regard to the Hankins, I feel like Bohanna, Neville, Osa stepped up and played very well yesterday in his absence. I felt like they bottled up Dameon Pierce pretty well this game. But to answer your question, I think the Steele loss is just huge. And it's not even just because of just his play, but his attitude on the field. Mm-hmm. And what he does finishing guys and just the tenacity he plays with and his willingness. Do I think that obviously, Jason Peters stepped in and played? Do I think that there's things they can do the Cowboys kind of have set themselves up to have some depth there and be able to work around that. We'll see how they plan on handling that completely, but Terrence Steele's just his demeanor. I mean, that TP touchdown, like the second one, I mean, Terrence is lead blocking there. And so I just think you are going to miss his physicality in the run game and just how he plays the game. And it's one of, like, I am wholeheartedly disappointed for him. And I don't know if we're allowed to say those things. But
No, absolutely.
I'm extremely
Absolutely.
disappointed for him because this is probably the best season he's played of football. This is, in totality, he hasn't been a guy that's been injured a lot. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a year where, is this a contract year for him, or is he's a restricted free agent next year? And so, this just changes things for him. I know he's going to battle back, but I just think his presence is going to be missed on this field. And him and Tyler Biadasz have really built something as well on that field together. So it's just,
Yeah, that O-line continuity is really what we've been honed in on these past few weeks because it's been so noticeable that we haven't been talking about the O-line. In fact, what we were talking about last week was the O-line rotation and how comfortable they felt being able to do that. And so something Mike McCarthy was asked in his press conference today was, how comfortable do you feel with Jason Peters being 40 years old, being on a one-year deal essentially, with him playing a full game? Do you feel comfortable with that? And Mike McCarthy said he's ready for whatever he's asked to do. And so it's going to be interesting to see that. And so also kudos to Jason Peters for, on a drop of a hat, just switching positions like that, because I don't think a lot of people appreciate or understand how much work mentally, physically goes into that. You're talking muscle memory from doing something on the left side and going to the right side. You're talking mental memory. I mean, this guy hasn't done this since 2005, and he went out there and he made such an impact immediately in that right tackle position. So I just want to give all the kudos to Jason Peters there, because that was just incredible to see him making such a quick impact. But something else I wanted to talk about, because speaking of impact, we saw the dominoes starting to fall early on in this game. Turning points within this game, ladies, I think we can pinpoint exactly what they were. But Christy, I wanted to talk to you about that, and specifically with really the first domino to fall, which was Turpin's muffed ball in that kickoff return there. So what did you see from that? And it's not very characteristic of Kevontae Turpin to do that. And so really, that's the first time we've seen it. Yeah. Twitter was being very toxic about it, y'all. If you were being toxic to Kevontae Turpin, I probably muted you. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey man, it was huge.
It was
huge.
It changed the feel of the game.
Yeah, but what was great was to see the response of teammates and coaches. I mean, over there to pick them up but what I enjoyed seeing from the sideline perspective is he didn't hang his head. Obviously, he was frustrated and disappointed because he knew he let the team, or felt like he let the team down with that key play, the muff punt, so early in the game. But I'd say about 4 plays it was 3 plays later, because Texans got the ball in good field position. They have a 3rd down in the red zone. And so Mike McCarthy is down just beyond the left side of the bench, and he's watching intently the defense, pre-snap. And here's Kevontae coming down and tapping Coach on the shoulder. And McCarthy turns to him, and Kevontae's doing it's me. He did his mea culpa, right? It's like, hey, it's on me. It's on me. And Coach just kind of nodded and fist bumped him and stuff like that. But, to be able to come back and respond later. He didn't break one. I know we keep saying every week, this is going to be the week. But that really was such a key thing, because the Cowboys did come out of the gate so well.
Yeah.
The Cowboys get the ball first, drive down, score, first possession. And here's the thing. When the Texans got the ball, the Cowboys defense, that was a 3 and out.
Yep.
So the offense and the defense for the Cowboys couldn't start any better than they did, forcing a punt on a 3 and out, and then the muff happens. And so, and then the Texans score thanks to in part to the good field position. And that's the thing, when you have an underdog team, you cannot give them any hope.
Yeah, they'll thrive off of that. Yeah. And so, Aisha, I wanted to talk to you about the impact that had going forward for the rest of the game, and what exactly did you see from that moment when it happened, from an X's and O's film type of vision, if you will?
Well, it's not even a whole bunch of X's and O's stuff. It's just that at that point, once the Texans scored, you could just see the light bulb kind of go off for them, like, oh, we can hang with them.
Yeah.
And they are a very I think every team has, works off of momentum. But I personally know some guys over there. And they are a very momentum-based team. And I felt like they wanted definitely, they definitely wanted to make it be known. Those secondary players were out there hunting. And to your point, talking about how many injuries and things that the Cowboys were dealing with besides the pregame stuff, it's because this game was nasty. This was a brawl on so many different levels, man. And so that part of the game, obviously the Turpin fumble, to me, I just think it shifted the confidence in, like, okay, once they scored, they understood what they had to do to put themselves in good positions to be able to score again, and that was short fields, and that equals points. And with Turpin, starting field position was up and down yesterday. And so I to your point, to your question, feel like maybe some of his decision-making was different after that, and he was struggling to get in a groove, and he was, was unsure about some places. And so hopefully, the guys instill confidence in him again. But it was a trickle-down effect also for him and for the rest of the game because, again, starting field position for the Cowboys was not good at all. I mean, the last drive, they had to go 1,000,000 yards, 98 yards?
98 yards, and 11 plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's because starting field position was up and down, and it didn't help the offense at all yesterday. So something to improve on.
Yeah, definitely. And so one last thing in this block before we go to break is I wanted to ask y'all about something that is maybe buried in the rest of the conversation within this game, and that was the Mike McCarthy challenge. This happened during Houston's third drive. He was challenging, Chris Moore's 36-yard catch. I wanted your opinion on that. Mike McCarthy is 0-2 so far this season with challenges. Do you think that was a good challenge, Christy, from what you could see, Aisha, from what you could see? How do y'all feel about that challenge? And obviously it didn't go in the Cowboys' favor, but was it a good call by Mike McCarthy to go for it?
I did not have a good view of it from the sideline. It actually was straight across from me, but it's 53 1/3 yards away,
sure.
the width of a field. I thought that he had caught it. But looking at the review on the big Jerrytron, which is 60 yards wide, to me, it looked like the ball did move, touch the ground and moved. So I think that it should have been overturned and ruled an incompletion.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what a catch is no more.
I don't either.
Hey, listen.
I don't either.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I'm gonna be honest with you at this point. Like I really at this point feel like there's just so many inconsistencies with what is a catch, what's not a catch, whatever. But me personally, I thought that the ball moved. I watched it about 5 times on the all 22.
I knew you would.
I did. I was like, let me see it. This ball moved, and it was a smart, timely challenge given where you were in that game and wanted to go ahead and go ahead and continue to score. I understand it.
And I think what was important in that moment was you could feel the momentum building for Houston, and that was huge. That just put the nail in the coffin for the momentum. So I agreed with Mike McCarthy's going for it, if you will, with that challenge. And in my opinion, from what I saw, it looked like it was not a catch. But what do I know? I'm also a Des truther that says it was a catch here as well. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and toss to break because coming up in our second segment, we are talking all things Dallas Cowboys offense. And we even hear from Houston Texans head coach Lovie Smith, what he had to say about Dak Prescott. All that and more coming up. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. No, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
To Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We are digging deep into the Cowboys offense, but first, 'tis the season for Dallas Cowboys Holiday Youth Camps presented by Invisalign. Registration for one-day football and dance academy camps are now open. Don't miss your chance to send your little athlete to camp at AT&T Stadium on December 20th and 21st. Limited spaces remain, so register at dallascowboys.com/academy today. All right, ladies, let's dive deep into this Cowboys offensive performance. Real quick, running down some quick stats. They had a total of 404 yards, 277 of which were passing yards, 127 of which were rushing yards. They were averaging 5.7 yards per play. They had a total of 71 plays within this game. First downs, well, they had 21 of those. Third down efficiency, this is something we'll get into, 8 of 15. 1 of 2 of fourth down efficiency, and penalties. They had 3 for 10 yards. I'm not going to be mad about that. It's not okay, but it's better.
Girl,
I'm moving on. I'm moving on.
That's good.
I'm moving on.
That's
only
insane.
3 penalties.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's throw a party.
No, that's what I'm
Only 3
saying.
penalties.
I'm saying I love the improvement. But something else that we talk about a lot on this podcast that I like to bring up on Mondays is the time of possession.
Yes.
The Cowboys had the ball for 26 minutes and 46 seconds. The Texans had the ball for 33 minutes and 14 seconds. Although, I don't know about y'all, but the last 2 minutes felt like an eternity of the game. Oh my goodness. Definitely a lot to unpack here, starting with just overall, this was such an interesting game offensively for the Cowboys. But I did want to start a little bit more on the O-line. We already touched base on that. But what I did want to get into was, we talked about the O-line, the run game. Looking back at the game and kind of rewatching some stuff today, how did we feel about the amount of run game that there was compared to passing game, and that 1-2 punch? To me, I felt like it was abandoned early. I felt like within the Cowboys' first drive, it was great. It was great. And let me pull up some stats here, because I also wanted to look at those as well. Zeke had 62 yards for 15 carries. He was averaging 4.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown there. Tony Pollard had 42 yards for the day, had 15 carries, and averaged 4.2 yards per carry. He had that cha-cha slide touchdown, which we'll get into in just a second as well. And then also on the rushing list, well, Dak Prescott, 23 yards. He ran the ball 6 times, and he was averaging 3.8 yards per rush there. So interesting to see Dak using his legs a little bit more within this game. But how did y'all feel about the balance between the run game and the pass game for this game specifically? Do you feel like there was a balance, or do you feel like the run was abandoned a little early? Where do you stand with that, Christy?
I think it was a little heavy on the pass, and that's because if you take out the one drive in the third quarter, now this is the one that ended with the unsuccessful fourth down run, but that drive, that was 9 straight runs. 9-play drive, 9 runs. Okay,
And I was like,
but you take that out, and it just shows you how heavy it was pass the rest of the time. So I like your point, Jess, about Dak using his legs more towards like the end of the game, and especially when it was like the hurry up. And I think that that's something that we haven't seen as much these last couple of years, and hadn't seen it much this year. But I think he picked the right time to do it late in the game, and it was real important. Not only moving the chains, but when you're in a tempo kind of offense, that can often be very helpful.
Yeah, Dallas struggled on first and second down, passing the ball, running the ball. Like in that second quarter, especially, they were struggling to really get in a rhythm. And by the time they got to third down, they were in this. I mean, it's like 2nd and 12, 2nd and 2nd and 10, those situations. And then by then you're in a third down situation that's not necessarily favorable to you. And you do have a quarterback that can definitely still try to sustain drives and stuff. But what really was the struggle, especially with the run game and trying to stay established, is that the Texas D-line and linebackers came to play. The DBs were coming down and tackling. They were hitting hard. It was just the Cowboys were struggling at the point of attack at certain points, and it took them about the end of the second quarter to really establish, themselves a little better. Then they came out in the second half and played better, and obviously, but yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned the linebackers in particular because there seemed to be more. I don't know, it's that maybe they got better depth on their drops and stuff, but it was harder for Dak to fit it into these zones. They played so much zone.
Yeah.
And so zone compared to man, in some ways it's easier and you tend to get more interceptions, or it's easier to intercept the ball when you're in a zone and you're facing the quarterback rather than man-to-man and turned running with your guy and having to turn and make a play on the ball. Trayvon Diggs is great at it with his wide receiver background, but generally zone, it's can sometimes see more interceptions. They're easier for the defender. And Mike McCarthy said something really interesting about it, and it was kudos to I thought the coaching staff for the Texans had just a great game, offense and defense.
Yeah.
But
They came to play.
But one thing McCarthy said, it's a matter of more, as far as the type of coverage, it was more quarters than I've seen a lot of people play, lots of combination. He, meaning Lovie Smith, who's the head coach and runs the defense, is a vision defense coordinator and does a great job of it. And they played with good vision. So that goes to my point of it's not just making a play on the ball to intercept it, but even the linebackers with dropping back and knocking the ball away. So Dak, like that one interception that went off of Noah Brown, Dak wants to have that back. He tried to fit it in there. That was not a good throw, and I think it's reasonable to question the decision on that particular one. The other interception, Dak's arm was hit. Okay, so that was a pass rush situation.
But the nickelback had him fooled there.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
Yeah.
But when you talk about, I'm so glad that you mentioned the vision defense thing because I wrote it down because it was important to me, and I know we're gonna get to Lovey or whatever, but yeah, he just came out there and he threw the kitchen sink at you, man. But when you talk about playing zone as opposed to man,
I don't know if you saw that, but
what in the world?
He was throwing the kitchen sink.
It's like Elon Musk carrying in the kitchen sink to Twitter and going to throw everything out. But
Stop it.
You know what? I just want to say, if Twitter gets taken down, we are all going back to MySpace. I've made that declaration.
But you made such a good point about the vision defense and just playing your zone and that the responsibility kind of being not as great because like with Dak plays very well against man coverage and if you blitz. And so they decided to throw a lot of disguise coverages at him. And I think especially in the beginning of that game, he was still trying to figure it out, like you were talking about the depth with the receivers and where to place the ball and stuff. It was that defense was humming and
physical.
Very physical. So just again, credit to Lovey for having these gentlemen ready, and they were fully prepared. They were playing on the ball. They were biting on stuff. They were tackling hard. A lot of the offense struggling was because that defense was playing well. Like, let's just keep it a buck. Like, that's how I feel about it. Is that they also threw out some stuff that they hadn't seen. It sounded like listening to Dak and listening to Mike McCarthy. Like, even Lovey said, like we threw everything at them, and that's crazy. Like, this ain't no playoff game, man. Like
everything. It was for them.
For them, it clearly was, and that's why I'm trying to stay.
For their lives.
And that's why I'm trying to stay even killed because we even talked about that. Like they got a lot of guys over there with 1-year deals, veteran players trying to prove that they can still play in this league, or they got young guys trying to make a name for themselves because they're new draft players. Petrie lost his mind.
Petrie was
He's
having
a good
day.
player.
He was having a
was
day.
Really good play.
He was bullying the Cowboys offense,
and
by the way.
By the way, the Texans were playing without Stingley, their first-round pick, the rookie cornerback, and then they lost the other starting cornerback, Steven Nelson. So they were short-handed, not just on offense at wide receiver without their two top wide receivers. Kudos to them. They really stepped up.
Yeah, they shook up the quarterback a lot. Like, Dak did fantastic on the last drive. I think he put together some good. They moved the ball well. I think they had, if I'm not mistaken, four drives of 60 more yards. Like, they moved the ball, but there were so many instances where they could not continue to stay on the field, and a lot of it was offensive line play, getting behind the chains, no crazy penalties, but it just was execution was so up and down until they pulled it out in the last minute, and I do give them kudos for even locking in and finishing the game.
Yeah, that's exactly. What did Mike McCarthy say in his press conference, Christy? He said big play execution is what it came down to, and that they just didn't do that until the final drive of the game. Dak Prescott having 2 interceptions during this game, which this is 9 for the season, his season so far. 7 of 9, get this, have happened within the second quarter of these games. And it wasn't until Sunday that Dak actually threw his first second-half interception of the season so far.
And again, that was the one where his arm got hit.
Right. And so how do we feel about the balance that Dak Prescott is trying to feel out right now with being aggressive versus being too conservative? How do you feel like he's riding that tightrope? Is there still a fine line? Is he polishing it up? What are you noticing any improvements or strides for him week to week as he tries to figure that balance out?
Always a fine line. And here's the thing, it's going to be different every week, okay?
It's going to be different.
It's interesting because the game against the Texans and then the week before, Gus Bradley, who's the defensive coordinator of the Colts, Gus Bradley, Lovie Smith, all off of the Tony Dungy tree, the cover 2 kind of thing. So there was some similarity with that. But as we talked about just a moment ago, the way that Lovie was able to mix things. And so you had the quarters, which means that you have the 2 safeties for those 2, like middle of the field on each side, but then the furthest side, that means that the corners are responsible for that. You can still play press man coverage. You can still play man. You can still press in quarters. But what it does is it gives the safeties flexibility to come up and run support, okay? As opposed to, they also played cover 2, which means the 2 safeties, they're responsible for each half of the field. And then if you hear cover 1 or cover 3, cover 1 just means that it's one safety in the middle of the field, kind of like the center, kind of like got everything. If you just had a center fielder in the outfield in baseball, that's what cover 1 is. And then cover 3 would be when you have 3 that are back there. So just interesting the way that they did it. But again, more zone and just making it harder for the quarterback to make the decisions, right?
Sure.
And fit it into tighter spaces sometimes.
And a bend but never break kind of mentality for the Dallas Cowboys, especially that last drive of the game. 11 plays for 98 yards. Head coach Lovie Smith actually talked about Dak Prescott's performance within this time. Jazzy, let's roll that soundbite so the people can hear what Lovie Smith had to say about Dak.
One of the best. Dak Prescott, one of the best quarterbacks in our game. And he's going to hit some, and I think they kind of showed a little bit of the champion in them. Had to get a drive, there at the end, and unfortunately for us, they were able to.
I mean, it was fortunate for the Cowboys. I don't know what he's talking about. But I really love that they showed the champion within them, because earlier last week I was talking about how in another press conference, Lovie Smith had mentioned that this is a team he can see going all the way. He said the Dallas Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders. So the fact that Lovie Smith really went in with that mentality but played his team like he did and then came out to still give kudos, a lot of respect there for all of that. Something else I wanted to touch base on, which we will get to after this next break, is we're talking all about a Cowboys player who made his Dallas Cowboys debut. We're talking special teams, defense, and when is the last time since Sunday that the Dallas Cowboys defense had a sackless game? I'll let y'all marinate on that. We'll be right back. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. No, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
With Smoothie King's original Angel Food and new Angel Food Slim without added sugar, you no longer have to choose between treating yourself and hitting your goals this summer. You don't have to choose between great taste and feeling great. Because at Smoothie King, every blend is made with whole fruits and no syrups, so you can satisfy your cravings without compromise. The only choice you will need to make is which one is best for you. Try our classic Angel Food or the new Angel Food Slim, blended without added sugar. Smoothie King, rule the day.
Well, welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. I asked you a little trivia question ahead of the break. We'll get to that in just a second, but first, don't miss your chance to experience the most electrifying event of the holiday season, Cowboys Christmas Extravaganza, presented by Reliant. Every Friday and Saturday night through December 17th, Cowboys Christmas Extravaganza ignites the Star in Frisco with an unforgettable holiday performance showcasing the world-renowned Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, your favorite Dallas Cowboys heroes, and, of course, Santa Claus, too. Visit thestarinfrisco.com/Christmas for more information on that. All right, ladies, I asked you if you know the last time the Dallas Cowboys defense did not have a sack in a game ahead of Sunday, and I told you the answer, so it's kind of cheating, but I thought it was interesting. I thought of this question last night. I was half asleep, and I woke up and I said, when's the last time that happened? I put it in my notes and didn't look like English this morning when I was awake, but I actually looked this up. The last time the Dallas Cowboys defense did not have a sack in a game ahead of Sunday's game against the Texans, well, it was October 10th, 2021 against the Giants. They did win that game 44-20, and looking at some stats now, Micah had 6 tackles during that game. Leighton Vander Esch had 4. Jaron Kearse had 3. Malik Hooker had 3. Trayvon Diggs had 3. And then going down the list there as well. But before that, ahead of that, the game before that, was the September 9th, 2021 game against Tampa Bay that they lost 31-29. Keep in mind that was Dak's big return game post-ankle injury there. So thought that was a little bit interesting because it's very unusual for this Cowboys defense to come out of a game without a sack these days. I thought that was very interesting, but ladies, what was that a product of? Aisha, I'm going to start with you, my film junkie over here. What was that a product of not seeing any sacks? Was that a product of low productivity? What did you see when it came to that?
No, me and Christy was just talking about it. Like, they were getting the ball out fast. They were setting up screens. We talked about it. They had their regular offense, like you said, but they just mixed RPO in there. There was a lot going on. Like, it was a lot that was going on that wasn't on film. Like, tater tots. Like, I know, listen, man, I understand us being critical, and I will be as well, but when a team comes out there and they just you know what? We got a whole nother guy. And I understand also, too, they should have definitely kind of picked up on the keys and stuff, but it changes your alignments. It does a lot. So that right there. But then also, too, I think Tunsil had a great game dealing with Micah and all of those edge rushers that Dan Quinn deployed on that side to get some pressure. And obviously Tank was over there, but he's definitely playing the edge well and stuff. They just struggled to generate pressure this game with that and the ball getting out quickly. I did expect more, but I understand some of why it was like that because schematically is what they were trying to do.
And Christy, real quick, a big conversation last week was the cornerback depth post injuries. So how do you think the cornerbacks were put to the test this game, and do you think that this showed us anything about the Cowboys secondary in general?
I think it was a good start, a good first start for Kelvin Joseph stepping in for Anthony Brown. He gave up the one play, but towards the end of the game, that third down
that was a big
pass
PBU.
breakup was a
big.
huge play. So, I thought it was a good showing for Joseph, and hopefully it is a good omen for going into these final 4 games.
We love a good omen.
But here's the thing was, kudos to Pep Hamilton, who is the offensive coordinator for the Texans, and really mixed things up. We should have known something was coming when they didn't have Kyle Allen, the backup quarterback who had
elevated
started the 2
Driscoll.
previous games, and they elevated Jeff Driscoll from the practice squad, who's the third-string quarterback. And so when they, as Aisha said, when they were mixing things up and basically bringing him and running a different kind of offense, and the Cowboys not having film to prepare for that, it really you could see the Cowboys having to communicate on defense more. And so when you're having to do that and you're not quite sure what's going on, sometimes just that scintilla of a second of reaction and uncertainty and having to communicate it makes a big difference.
And real quick, we are running short on time. I'm going to have y'all think about this. Who gets your flowers for the week? We're going back to flowers because I like giving out flowers. But real quick, Christy, there was something we wanted to mention about James Washington, specifically his first game as a Dallas Cowboy, which when I talked to him in the locker room earlier last week, he had mentioned that it was a full circle moment for him playing at AT&T Stadium in high school, in college, and then officially as a Dallas Cowboy because he grew up a Cowboys fan. So definitely an exciting day for him. But specifically, we wanted to talk about not just his role within the offensive, scheme of things, but also within special teams. And we also heard Mike McCarthy talk about that in the press conference today.
So he had to do something that he'd never done in his career, and that's block on special teams. Okay, he had some kickoff returns, just a few, a half dozen or 7 maybe at Oklahoma State. But now he is blocking. He's playing right tackle on kickoff return. He's not the returner. He's having to block. And then on punt blocking, he's one of the stat guys and having to spy the personal protector. So for a guy, and he only got 1 target on offense as wide receiver. But the willingness to get out there and give your best, even though it's the first time you're asked to do something. You're a veteran guy, but you're going to, hey, I've never done this, but I'm going to do my best for the team. I mean, kudos to Washington. That blocking is a thankless job, and I know he's disappointed he didn't get a catch in his first game action as a Cowboy, but, hopefully better things to come.
Yeah, I think he will be somebody that we keep an eye on as far as ramping up, like we had talked about. I didn't expect to see him with a full workload for this game, but it'll be interesting to see how they integrate him and their shiny new toy with T.Y. Hilton as the season progresses. And so, flowers for the week. Aisha, who are you going with? Who gets your flowers for the week?
Dang it. I got 2.
All right, give them out.
Okay, so Tank.
Yes.
DeMarcus Lawrence, man, there were 2 times that he stood up and changed the game because even I think before Kelvin had the PBU, Tank had gotten beat with, I don't know if Driscoll escaped him or Mills escaped him, and then he came back the next play, tackle for loss, and that set up the long 3rd down, and here comes Kelvin Joseph with that PBU. Game changer. Then you got the goal line play where he just blasts that play, completely blows it up, and that right there is what gave the Cowboys the opportunity. I mean, you had some help from the DTs to play before, but that's what set up the Cowboys being able to go win that game. And so for me, it was him and also LVE. I stole yours, didn't it?
Yeah, you stole mine.
Yeah, you stole
My bad.
All right, I have another
all
one.
right,
That's
give
okay.
him all the flowers. LVE.
All of them. Throw flowers at LVE.
Well,
I mean, don't throw anything at him.
And he got the game ball.
Y'all,
from
he
Coach
played
McCarthy.
so free. He played so free, so physical. And when if a team wants to come in and run the ball like that, he thrives. He thrives in that situation. He feels so well. Just a great game by LV. I thought he deserved his flowers.
And he was sick. And
coming off of an illness all week. And he played like
Friday.
that.
Yeah.
Dang, good for him. Christy, who's getting your flowers?
Yeah, that's it. LVE.
LVE, all right.
I'm all drugged up on Mountain Dew.
All right. Whatever.
That was him. That was him.
Whatever he took, please take it every week.
Do it.
Mountain Dew, sure. I'll get him a Baja Blast every week if that's what it takes. I'm going to give my flowers to Brett Maher for the week because thank you, Brett, for your leg. We appreciate your leg
That
here
was a big deal.
every day, every week. This is a Brett Maher appreciation moment for me because he really is just such a different player than the last time he was in this building.
Yeah.
And I love to see the progression of him as a player, as a person, just the maturity within his game now, his follow through, everything is just so polished up and perfected, and I couldn't be happier for him.
Yeah, and let's give kudos to Brian Anger, who's the holder on the field goals, because that 53-yarder, that snap was a little low.
It was wobbly.
It kind of skipped. It hit the ground right before it got to Brian Anger, but he was able to snag it, not just set it up, but turn it and so that Maher could get a good strike on the ball.
Well, there you go, ladies. I love doing this with you every Monday. And just so y'all know, there is not going to be a show tomorrow. We will be out, so we will be back at it on Wednesday. For Aisha Morrison, Christy Scales, I'm Jess Navarez. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see you on Wednesday. Go enjoy the rest of your Victory Monday.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!